Imagine a planet completely isolated in the dark of space. It is rich in rare purple crystals, but its inhabitants have absolutely no contact with the rest of the galaxy. In economics, we call this a closed economy. Now, picture a different planet, light years away. This one is covered in massive factories and shipyards, but it's slowly shutting down because it has mined the last of the raw materials it needs to keep building. The question is, what happens to both of these societies when they finally discover each other and build a bridge between their worlds? That connection is the essence of globalization. It is the process by which the world's economies become increasingly interdependent and interconnected. When nations link up, they start tearing down the invisible walls that normally keep their domestic product, capital, and labor markets separate. Globalization permanently rewires isolated nations into a single, highly sensitive global machine, where a recession in one economy can trigger immediate financial shocks in another. Building that global machine required solving a few massive physical and technological problems. The first was distance. We had to drastically lower the cost of international transport. The solution was containerization and massive cargo vessels. Standardized steel boxes meant goods could be packed once and moved across oceans with incredible efficiency. By packing thousands of containers onto a single hull, shipping companies unlocked immense economies of scale. Suddenly, a company could ship raw materials or finished products halfway across the earth without noticeably increasing the price for the final consumer. The second major catalyst was the rapid expansion of communication technologies, like the internet and satellite systems. Coordinating this trade requires the instant transfer of data, money, and ideas across borders, using a massive infrastructure of satellites and undersea fiber optic cables. With the internet handling instant communications, executives could sit in one country and seamlessly coordinate complex, multi-stage supply chains operating across a dozen different time zones. Cheap shipping provided the muscle, and instant data provided the nervous system, creating the physical and digital foundation for a borderless economy. But the physical capability to trade doesn't matter if governments block the borders. The third catalyst was the intentional removal of political trade restrictions, like import taxes and quotas. Global organizations like the World Trade Organization stepped in to actively promote free trade, encouraging member countries to drop tariffs and providing a legal framework to settle international disputes. As these protective walls fall, domestic businesses lose their safety net. They are suddenly forced to compete directly on an open, global playing field. The primary drivers and biggest beneficiaries of this open market are multinational companies, or MNCs. These are massive organizations that operate in 2 or more countries simultaneously. Take McDonald's, for example. Here we see a US-based firm successfully exporting its brand and operations straight into a Swedish market, adapting to local languages and tastes to capture entirely new consumers. MNCs cross borders to expand their sales, but they also move their manufacturing to find cheaper labor, access cheaper raw materials, and secure lower corporate tax rates in foreign jurisdictions. The arrival of MNCs brings foreign direct investment, but it also forces domestic firms to either adapt or face the risk of being driven out of business. For consumers, this heightened international competition usually results in a massive variety of global goods sitting on local shelves, often at significantly lower prices than domestic equivalents. Human capital responds to these open borders too. Workers frequently migrate from low-income regions to high-income nations to secure better employment opportunities. This creates a crucial financial flow known as remittances, where migrant workers send a portion of their wages back home. For developing economies like Senegal, these remittances can make up a substantial percentage of their entire gross domestic product. This chart compares exports to total economic output. It proves how reliant modern nations are on this interconnected system. Looking at Switzerland and Japan at the top, we see massive portions of their output are inextricably tied to foreign buyers. For many nations, fully leaning into their comparative advantage, specializing in what they produce best, results in high levels of wealth, technological transfer, and overall prosperity. But a borderless economy carries systemic risks. Hyper-efficiency often masks severe environmental and social costs that don't show up on a corporate balance sheet. Economists call this the pollution of affluence. Increase. To feed the global machine, MNCs rapidly deplete non-renewable resources and timber in developing nations, often prioritizing short-term profit over local sustainability. There is also intense economic friction. When an MNC shifts its manufacturing to a country with cheaper labor, it leaves localized structural unemployment behind in its home country, devastating communities that relied on those factory jobs. While total global wealth undoubtedly increases under free trade, the gains are rarely distributed evenly. Globalization frequently widens the income gap between the world's richest and poorest populations. Globalization functions as a powerful economic engine, one that generates immense prosperity, but requires strict international cooperation to manage the resulting environmental damage and inequality.